Hey podcast listeners, this is your host Paperkraft Mike, and welcome to the first episode of the Paperkraft podcast. Our philosophy here at the Paperkraft podcast is that New York City, New York State has a lot of great music, a lot of fantastic musicians. I'm a musician myself. I run a project called Paperkraft Castles, and I know great people who play music, all up and down this great state of ours. And most of them never really get any press or anything like that. So I thought, what the heck? Let me go out there and try to talk to people and get some press for us, us hardworking New York musicians. In this interview, our first episode, I spoke with my great friend, Mike Lombardi. He played in a very well-received Rockland County band a few years back called Fuzzy Dice, and now he has his own acoustic side project here called Permanent Rain, which we discuss in detail here. This interview with Mike was recorded back in November, so some of the information might seem a little bit dated, but Mike has some great things to say here. And he is such a great guy that he has offered our Papercraft podcast listeners a free exclusive acoustic track that'll be available for download here in the show notes. Acoustic track of his song Sarah. So take a listen to the podcast here. We go through his stuff. We take a listen to some of his old songs, and we just have a great time. And go ahead and visit the website. And visit the show notes, give us your email, and we will send you this free acoustic track that Mike recorded for you guys. So without further ado, let's kick it. Go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Papercraft Podcast number 1. This is New York music by New Yorkers for New Yorkers. Very excited to have Mike Lombardi here in the studio with me. Mike is a good friend of mine. He's done some fantastic music in the past. He's been a really, really big part of the Rockland music scene outside the city here. And I'm really pleased to welcome him to the show today. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, dude. This is the first episode. Really excited. So let's just dive right in.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, you have been in some great local Rockland bands, Fuzzy Dice, and now you are doing Permanent Rain, your sort of acoustic side project. How did you get started doing music here in Rockland?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I feel like I took the unorthodox route. I feel like a lot of the bands are now, back then, even now, in high school, they're like, well, being in a band is cool, so let's pick up a guitar and learn how to play a couple Ramones tunes. And actually, I've been playing music since I was 4 years old. I've been playing piano since I was 4, and I picked up the guitar when I was 8. So now, almost 12 years later, I have a little bit of playing experience under my belt. Basically, I just figured out when I was in middle school and when I was starting high school that I felt like I had this skill that people didn't know about me, and I didn't know how to really tell. I didn't want to just be like, hey, I play music, because that's not fun. I wanted to really show them what I was creating, and nobody had ever heard anything that I have done. So I just started playing a couple little open mics and stuff like that, and one thing led to another. A couple promoters and booking agents found me, and they just would throw me on as the local on some of the bigger shows, and it just kind of escalated from there.
So this was before Fuzzy Dice?
This was actually before Fuzzy Dice, and that's what it's like. I've actually made sure that there's no evidence of it on the internet, but I did actually have a music project just called Mike Lombardi before Fuzzy Dice, and it was so deplorably bad that I'm glad that it's not out there anymore. But the groundwork there actually made Fuzzy Dice start at a higher level than what it could have.
Mm-hmm. So you were branding yourself even before you became part of the group.
I was, and I didn't even know it. I didn't really understand the dynamic of a music scene, or how any of the business end of it worked. I just knew that some guy asked me to be here at this time and bring my guitar, and whoever was there, and whoever whatever setup it was, you just kind of went with it. And I think that's a difference between what a lot of kids do these days. They're like, well, who's on the bill? Is there this PA? And back in the day, I'm talking about 2007 right now. We didn't, I didn't care. Mm-hmm. If it was a place to play and there were people there to listen to me, that was genuinely, that was a great thing. So I just feel like that's the difference.
And how old were you when you were doing that?
I started playing out when I was 13.
Wow.
And I mean, I remember the first real show that I had ever played was the summer of 2008 with Patent Pending, Sexy Heroes, Floral Terrace, and some really god-awful band from upstate, but that's not important. And, you know, we did the sound check at 2 o'clock, and, you know, I was the first guy on, so I had inevitably the last sound check. Mm-hmm. So while I was sound checking, there was a line of people out there. This was at the back door.
Wow, is this the Welcome to Rockland Fest?
Well,
this was
just an in a can show that he put on. Fantastic. And I remember, like, I went outside. You know, I don't even know why I was outside, but there was just a line of people, and I was about to do my sound check, and I started doing my sound check, and like literally 10 seconds, they were like, you know, you're good, and they opened the doors, and when I tell you that, people made a horseshoe shape around the stage, like they just did not want to come near me. It's like I was like really ugly or something, and I remember like I was playing my first song, and some lovely woman. I guess you can call her a woman with multiple tattoos and piercings was like, "You suck," and it was, and I think that was when I started to really understand like about what a music scene was. That it wasn't just showing up and playing. That there were like some marketing dynamics and play to your audience kind of things. And I didn't really realize it because I was only 14 years old.
Mm-hmm. But I mean that's something great to learn when you're so young, because
it's better than learning it when you're in your 20s, because I'm sure it hurts a lot more when you're 22 than if you're 14.
I'll speak to that from personal experience, and I go ahead and agree with you with that on that one. But so you're playing out, you're doing these shows. You're 13, you're 14. Where does coming into playing in a band, where does that come into things?
I'll give you the backstory on how Fuzzy Dice started. We just graduated Suffern Middle School, 2008, and I know that you had in our high school that I went to. We had a class called Freshman Writing Seminar, and you had like a summer project for that, and you had to basically either make a video or write a paper, and obviously everybody was going to make a video. It was summertime, you didn't want to sit around writing a paper. Mm-hmm. Although I actually wrote the paper. That's a different story. And this kid Max, who just moved into my neighborhood, was like, "So word on the street is that you play guitar," and I was like,
"Was that actually what he said?"
Actually. And this was our last day of middle school, our last day on the bus home, and he was burning the tag off of Stuffed Animal. I'm like, this kid is a lighter, he's a badass. But and so we started talking, and he's like, well, I think I'm going to do my summer project on me as a drummer, and I want to emulate my favorite band, Green Day. And I was like, well, that's a total coincidence because I also love Green Day. He's like, okay, well, here's my phone number. Sometime over the summer, give me a call, and we're gonna jam, and then we're gonna have my stepdad come downstairs, and he's gonna shoot the video for the project, and that's all we have to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, cool, this will be something to do over the summer. So, whatever, July, we get down there, and, I never even talked to the kid before, and his big scary stepdad comes downstairs, who ended up not being scary at all, and with his little camcorder, and, we played out of like a Target amp. It was like a $20 little like 3-watt amplifier. And basically, like, after that, we went swimming in his backyard, and he's like, whoa, that sounded pretty good. I'm like, it did sound pretty good. And we just kept jamming. And as this was going on, I was still playing these solo shows. And I guess one day I realized, it was actually the same day as that show I was just talking about, I saw Patent Pending go on stage. It was their first show with Joe Ragosta as their lead singer. Michael, they said, was sick, but inevitably never played another show with them. Mm-hmm. And I just remember standing in the back of the venue, and the room was packed. There was probably 250 to 300 kids there, and he's like crowd surfed all the way back, and people were jumping around, and I'm like, I'm playing acoustic music, and I'm getting no response, and they're playing this cool thing called pop punk, and these kids are like, this church is gonna fall down. Like, that's how cool it was. And I was like, maybe I should try to start a band, and that's how really it started. And when I said before that, the credentials, the connections that I made doing the solo work really played into it, because I was like, well, why don't you get my new band on the show? And then that's how it really started. Mm-hmm.
Great. So it was you and Max at first, and then
we played shows just the two of us.
Really?
No bass player. It was something else.
And so how did you guys go from that 2-piece to the 4-piece that you kind of kind of took Rockland by storm with.
It's actually pretty funny. Yeah. Well, basically in March of 2009 we added 2009. No, it was actually March of 2010. We added a bass player because we really started September 2009. That was our first show, and it was our first show at this little. It was like the back room of a bar. It was like a ballroom called the Cornerstone Inn in Carlstadt, New Jersey.
Okay.
And it was a 9/11 benefit show, but we got paid for it. We got paid $150 for that show, and that was probably the most money that we made for like a couple years. You know, as far as individual shows go, and. You know, we brought every friend and family, and it was about 45 minutes from Suffern, but we brought every friend and family member that we had, you know, like aunts, uncles, cousins' boyfriend and their two friends, like everything. We sold like a ton of tickets, and, you know, we're getting ready to go on stage, and the first song, I did this like crazy like punk rock jump, and my guitar strap just split, and basically my guitar fell, and I mean, this was the first like 10 seconds of our career as a band, and I didn't know what to do, and everybody was like, you know, they were cheering us on because we were little kids, and basically this very nice guy let me borrow his guitar strap on stage, and he ended up being in one of the biggest Pink Floyd tributes in the country, which is just a little side note.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've actually found about him. He was opening up for somebody like a Nirvana tribute and like a big venue. And I was like, I know that name. Yeah. And he also wore an eye patch. I'm not sure if it was like part of the stage show if he needed it. That's kind of a side note. But and then basically we were like, well, we need a bass player because like if this happens again, you know, I can't just get. It's a lot easier to have somebody like noodling around, you know. So we got this kid Ben. In 2009, the end of 2009, we started playing with him in 2010, and that lasted about a couple months. It didn't really last very long, and then we reevaluated, and we got Russell from a band called Skyline 48, and we were like, "Yo, temp with us," and he had inevitably quit that band for our band, and we got a long-time childhood friend named Zach. Who I literally have known since I was about 3 years old, and I actually moved back to the street that I used to live on, and one day he was just outside skateboarding, and I was like, you want to, you know, play in my band? And that's when it really started to like become more of like we thought of it as a potential career than just like a hobby.
Wow. So you guys, this is early 2010 at this point. You guys have come together. You have this 4-piece, you know, of awesomeness, and you know, and you took on the road. I mean, you guys took on the road a little bit.
We did later on. Basically, this is actually about the beginning of 2011. Yeah, but it's like the first 2 years were very, you know, it got more populated in the last 2 years. But we just started. You know, we got this 4-piece together, and we sent out a bunch of like press packages, and we got sponsored by Beast Attire Clothing. Wow. We got sponsored by this thing called Suco Music, which I don't know if it exists anymore, but they would just like throw stuff at us. And we ended up, you know, joining team with this band Floral Terrace, and every local show they had in that spring of 2011, they threw us on.
Wow.
Every single one. So we got, you know, it was freaking awesome. They were our best. They still are some of my best friends, and we just got to like play all these very cool shows with all these bands that were doing it professionally, and we weren't obviously because we were still in high school. But it really kind of gave us a first person perspective. That's probably not the right way to say it, but on the difference between doing music professionally and doing it as a hobby, and how if you're not doing it professionally, it shows. And I think that was probably the biggest thing, because we were playing these elaborate shows with these elaborate bands that were really doing it, and we knew that we weren't as good as them, and we knew that we had a lot of things missing that they did. And I think that's about the time that we started to realize it. And in the summer of 2011, we all sat down. We were like, you know what? Do we want to like actually do this professionally? And we were like, yeah, we do. And that was really the turn between local band and trying to be more.
So you guys sort of, this is, you know, you sort of realigned where you wanted to be, at least, you know, in your mentally. I mean, that's the big game. It's in your head. That's, you know, everything I read, everything I see. It's like you can be fantastic at what you do physically. You can be a great player, but if your mind is not, you know, I'm going to be a legend, then it's difficult for you to continue with that, you know, doing that kind of thing. So you guys, how did it go from there when you sort of realigned your mentalness?
I mean, basically, we ended up, getting on some pretty elaborate shows after that, and the difference was, for the past 3 years, we were basically piggybacking off of other people's fans, their credentials, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that about that time was the first time that we started to really have our own fans. We had people coming to shows for us. Not they were going for another band, but they would watch us because we asked them to. And that was when we first started people hearing the words to our songs being sang in the audiences in places that were not our hometown, things like that. And that's part of the reason why we decided to take it to the next step. And we said, what do we need to take it to the next step? Now, we had released a couple little demos, here and there. And in that spring, we released our song, Wait Out the Ride, which we wrote in February. It was Zach and I. We were literally just sitting out on his deck. And it was like the first spring feeling day. And, you just want to be outside. And we were supposed to have a writing day. Because we would switch, Monday was a writing day, Tuesday was a practice day. I'm not even sure if that's how it was, but we would switch it. And so it was a writing day. So everybody else was like, you know what? We're not gonna go to writing today because it's such a beautiful day. And I was like, you know what? No, Zach and I were gonna do this. So we basically sat outside and smoked a couple cigarettes, and we were like, all right, let's write. And literally, we were just he just started playing a riff, and when I tell you, we wrote the song in 3 minutes. I mean, it just came to us. And I think it was just I'm not one that's I find my inspiration for music here. I kind of tell it how it is, but I literally just felt the wonderful aura of what was going on that in that atmosphere, sitting outside. It was the first not depressing day in 6 months. It just came to us. And we wrote this song basically about if something when times are tough, just wait it out. And I think when I was writing the lyrics, I really wrote it about wow, that was such a crappy winter. We had all these a lot of problems, personal problems between all of us, not between us, but individually. And I was like, wow, we waited it out and we made it, and that's freaking awesome. And basically, we showed it to the band the next day, and we put it into we put all the instruments into it, and we were like, cool, let's go to the studio. And it just was that. It was just so quick.
Wow, that's amazing. So was that sort of the lead off single for you guys that year?
It was, and that's really the song that actually until the end it was the one that that was our anthem, or Leonard Skinner has Sweet Home Alabama. We had Wait Out the Ride, and it was really cool because we didn't expect it. We were just let's record this because we need something new to put out. And then about 6 months after that, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Everybody knows this song now. We need to put out more than just a song. We need to do an album or an EP. So we had a big meeting, and we all sat down. It was actually the 5 of us. We got Nick Magliano in on it now. He joined the band to play bass, and Russell played guitar, and I just sang, which was probably my favorite thing, because I loved not having to carry the equipment in and out of the venue.
Lazy singers.
I literally, I would call it networking, which was really just going and talking to people after the show, and they, my band, they would be pushing the cabs out into the van, loading up the van, and I would just be talking to a couple people trying to sell a CD or something like that, and they didn't really complain until the end. Right. And then when I had to start playing guitar again, I was like, wow, I forgot about how bad this was. But we all sat down, and we were like, all right, this many songs need to be written by this date. We need to do this, and this, and then we need to find a studio that will pick it up for not what they want. We wanted to get a discount. We wanted some sort of financial compensation. So we emailed a couple studios, and we got 3 responses, and we got the Pilot Studio in Boonton. Oh, it's gonna kill me. I can't remember. The guy's name is Kevin. He was a very nice guy.
Let's hope he's not listening.
Yeah. I don't think Kevin Kumetz, I think his name is. So if you're listening, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of your studio. But it was apparently this gorgeous studio. It was on a mountainside with a lake underneath it.
Oh, right.
And then we got Nada Recording Studios in New Windsor, and the first people to answer us back were Nada, and we're like, you know what? No matter what happens, we're gonna go to all 3. We're gonna talk to all 3 of the producers. So the first one we went to was Nada. We actually didn't tell our parents where we were going because we didn't want them to know that we were like doing this. So we literally we said we were all going out to eat. We hopped in the car straight up to New Windsor. I mean, and when I tell you, it was just, we didn't go anywhere else. I mean, John DeClario was just the most hospitable guy. He made us feel like we were that we deserved to be there, even though we did not feel like we deserved to be there. We felt like total schmucks. Mm-hmm. But he was like, he listened to some of our demo work, and he goes, well, I would fix this, this, and this. And he's like, and if you come record with me, we'll fix this, and this, and this. And I mean, like, literally, we were sold. It didn't take anything more than that. And we booked out the dates, and when I tell you that, like, Nada Recording is the best recording studio in the country, I am not kidding. So anybody who's listening to this, you better go record with John DeClario, because he's top-notch.
And we are a non-profit podcast at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're not getting any compensation from John DeClario. So definitely take this as an honest endorsement. And Mike, you have a song that we're gonna play from the Fuzzy Dice sessions in.
Yes.
Ad Nada Recording. Do you want to just like tell everybody about this, kind of set it up?
Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, so it was actually the last song that we wrote for the record. After we had a bunch of songs that we threw out, and we kind of didn't do a math. We were like, do we like this song? No, and then we ended up not having enough. So we were like, all right, we got to write one more song. So we wrote this song after Zach quit the band. And we wrote it about him, and the chorus, the words are, where we are is where you left us, but it looks like home to me, and like really that lyric, like we all just kind of really sat around, we were like, wow, it's like so deep, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but the way that we looked at it was, you didn't believe in us, but we still believe in ourselves, and like we all feel at home when we're together, and trying to accomplish what we were, and basically it was the last song that we wrote for the record, and I remember the first person we showed it to was our temp guitar player, Franklin Carpenito. What a guy. And he, like, his jaw just dropped. He was like, this is the best song you guys have ever written. And it ended up, it was not that we didn't have a title track, but it was the first song on the record. And we put this crazy weird Reefer Madness sample in the beginning of it. You'll hear it in about a second, but it's definitely my favorite song that we've ever done.
Great. So without further ado, let's take a listen. Worst part is, I don't miss you.
Arbeit.
That is the purpose of this meeting, ladies and gentlemen, to lay the foundation for a nationwide campaign by you to demand by law such compulsory education. Because it is only through enlightenment that this scourge can be wiped out.
Outside it's
getting late at night. I can barely see the road ahead. If your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming enough. This place is so dead, can't get it out of my head. You don't have to believe me, but I couldn't care less. Where we are is where you left us, and it looks like home to me. You said we're taking you for granted, and it's getting hard to breathe, because home is where the heart is, and I'm telling you, believe. You said we're taking you for granted, but it still looks like home to me. That's where you left us, that's where we'll be. We're taking you for granted, and it's getting hard to see. Home is where the heart is, I'm telling you, believe. We're taking you for granted, but it still looks like home to me.
Okay, so we're back. Very good song. I'm a big fan of that. I love that your album is on Spotify, so people can actually like check out the Fuzzy Dice EP on Spotify.
It will remain up there too. Yeah. I have to transfer the license into my own credit card, but it'll stay up there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
wait. So who's getting paid every time I listen to that?
Yeah, actually, I think that we actually get more money from Spotify plays than we do iTunes downloads, which is actually pretty funny. Because it's free to listen to it on Spotify, but if you guys think you get over 1,000 plays in a month, they pay you a couple bucks. So every time I'm like, somebody's listening. It might just be you, but
yeah, it could just be me. I don't know, but anyway. So you guys did the record in 2011. Mm-hmm. What happened from there?
Basically, we had all these expectations. We were gonna, print it and tour off of it, and a lot of the expectations fell through because of basically just financial. We didn't have enough money to do. We had enough money to record it. We didn't have enough money to print it. We definitely didn't have enough money to tour off of it. Mm-hmm. To get a van and a real van, not the minivan. To really, I mean the minivan worked great, but to really do it for real. But we sold all the hard copies that we printed of it. We sold a bunch on iTunes. Our single Sarah was the pure volume #1 play for about 7 weeks.
Wow.
So, we got a write-up in Alternative Press. We got a write-up in, oh my god, it's going to kill me. Another one of those really cool websites. I'm sure we can link it. You can read it.
Well, it'll be in the show notes when Mike figures it out.
Yeah, exactly. We got a lot of cool recognition from it. A lot of great stuff with that. And basically, that summer, because we recorded it in April, we released it in June, and we broke up in November. So we're in 2012 now. Mm-hmm. And basically, we played our CD release show, which was probably one of the craziest experiences. I remember running off stage after we played our last song and standing on the merch table. And it was crazy. There were just kids with $5 bills, or 5 singles just in the air. And I was trying to make sure that everybody got a CD. And I mean, the pictures that we took, I mean, there were people there that we knew, all of our friends, people that we didn't know, we were just, it was a crazy, crazy experience. And we probably sold 100 CDs just that night alone, which was really cool. And then, we got to play the entire record plus some of our old stuff. And then that summer we played a couple of tri-state shows, Connecticut, a bunch of New Jersey, New York. We were supposed to play Pennsylvania, but we canceled that. Mm-hmm. I don't remember why we canceled that, but yeah, I mean, and then we got an email right after we recorded or we released the EP, The Truth Is Hard to Come By. Mm-hmm. Basically from the town of Ramapo, saying, we hear that you guys are in the words of Max's favorite expression, hot shit in a pancake.
Okay.
And it's not the words that they used. And they're like, well, we're running these summer concert series here at the new baseball stadium. Mm-hmm. We'll keep our opinions out of that, but and we have this show that we would love for you to opening for this little band called Smash Mouth. And I mean, I might have actually cried reading this email because Smash Mouth, when I was like 5 years old, like I used to jump on my bed to All Star, and like everybody did. I mean, and I was like, they're like, if you're interested, let us know. And I mean, I don't think I've ever typed so quickly. I was like, boom,
it's in.
And that was the last show we played with Max, because he went off to college, and. We basically looked at our summer, and we looked at our expectations, and then we looked at what happened, and we basically realized that we fell way short, and we were reevaluating, why did we fall way short, why didn't we sell as many, why didn't we play as many shows, why, and I think the big thing was that a lot of the bands that can do this do it yourself, tours, that they have. They have a bank account, whether it's their money or their parents' money or their aunt and uncle's money or, some, liquor store's money that they robbed.
Or a record label.
Yes, or a record label. That's true. Yeah. That's probably more important than robbing a liquor store. Exactly. All the bands that do it that way, they have money that they can, invest, and we didn't. And that was basically part of it. And we all kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, should we give it one more go? And we were like, yeah, let's give it one more go. And we got a new kid named Dan to play bass. Nick moved over to drums. It was like a big, rotation. Mm-hmm. And we wrote one song called Burn the City. We released it, and the response was the best response we ever had. It blew up on Twitter. Like, we were trending the whole 9 yards, and we had people from we had to Google Translate some of these tweets, because I mean, we had a large group of kids in Indonesia. Mm-hmm. Is that how you say it?
I believe so.
Okay. And we were like, and it was really cool. I don't even know how it got out there, but it did. And it was awesome. And then we were like, all right, you know what, this is great. We finally got this hype that we wanted. Now let's write an EP. And that's when it fell apart. Is that the music that we were writing was not, in my opinion, up to par. Mm-hmm. With anything we've done, even in 2009. I mean, obviously we grew with a lot of musicians. We just were not showing it in the music, and we just came to practice one day and we were like, yeah, this is not what we all wanted to sound like. And we just spent hours and days and nights just sitting down in the basement doing the pre-production. Is this good? Is this good? None of it was good. So basically we were like, all right, that's it. We're done.
That's it.
That's it. And it was just like that. And then literally we all had a little teary moment. And then we were like, you guys want to go to Wendy's? And then we just literally it was totally, it wasn't this big oh my god, TMZ come to the fucking rehearsal place. I'm not supposed to curse, am I?
You could. Yeah, okay. You've been doing it. It's all right.
Oh, have I? Okay. And it was just totally mutual. And yeah. And we all hung out ever since, and that was the end of it, though. And and if you want my TMZ opinion on why it didn't work, I have to say that with Max going away, that was the glue that held us together. And once you take the glue out, it'll just fall apart. But that's my story.
But you haven't let it get you down in terms of music. I mean, that happened 2012, you said, mm-hmm. And then now
about a year later,
here we are, and you've been doing a lot of acoustic stuff. You're getting into producing music now.
Absolutely.
Tell us where you are now.
Where I am now, I'm definitely in a different mindset. First off, when it comes to music, everything is very different these days. So I wanted to take a different approach. I started a solo project called Permanent Rain. And I guess I'll leak this information now, is that it might not be a solo project anymore.
Okay.
There might be another voice in it. It might be a dual vocal project. More to come. But I started it, and I started playing the same kind of shows that Fuzzy Dice was, and I was like, maybe I'm going to take some time off from playing shows, and I'm just going to work on the music. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna start producing, and that's where I'm at now. I'm actually spending the majority of my time producing. I'm planning to have. I want to have a full length out. We'll see where it goes. Definitely by the spring. It's going to be work all winter long, and there'll be new music and absolutely in the spring. And it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be new. It's gonna be like in touch with where we are now.
Okay, but in the meantime, though, you did put out some songs earlier this fall.
I did,
and I think we have one of them here that we're gonna take a listen to. Forever Young.
Yes.
Could you set this one up for us?
Yes. Forever Young is a song. Okay, so. It's actually very funny. I actually put this two and two together now. It was the first Spring Sound Feeling Day of this year. And I was sitting in Kakiat Park, a little state park by the old house. And I was like, I want to capture this emotion in a song. And I literally sat there with my guitar, and I started singing. And it just came together, and it's such a coincidence that that's how the other song happened too. But I sat there and I sang it out, and I added this cool choir bridge in it, and it just came together. And the song was basically about just living it up, like having the summer of your life, just not caring about what anything, and just being who you are in that moment, because you're never going to be like that tomorrow. You're going to be a different, changed person every day. So just living in the moment, and that's what this next song is about.
Okay, all right. Forever Young, Permanent Rain, a.k.a. Mike Lombardi. Let's take a listen.
Feels like we're growing old, but tonight we're invincible. For one more day we're forever young. The sun may be setting down, and our time is running out. Can't live like high school years forever. No, no. Could change our lives. Let's pop some more champagne, run wild in the rain, let out what's left of our inner child. Cause I've been thinking of a time when we had no place to hide. Outgrown feelings held inside. Oh no. Tonight we'll change our lives, but we're getting high to pass the time.
All right, Forever Young, Mike Lombardi. Hope you enjoyed it. Can people find this somewhere?
They can. On Bandcamp, search Permanent Rain Band.
Oh, beautiful.
And it's up there. It's definitely going to be re-released with a music video. That's something else that I'm releasing all my little secrets in here. But yeah, definitely sometime soon. I'm not sure exactly when, but it'll be re-released, remixed, remastered, the whole 9 yards. Might actually be a little bit different, but we're going to do it with a video, and that's going to be probably the first thing that you see.
Fantastic.
In 2014.
Well, Mike, I really want to thank you for coming out and to talk with me today in the studio. The Paperkraft Podcast, New York music by New Yorkers for New Yorkers. This is what we are. This is what we do. The Empire State. Why not have some fun here? Do you have any closing thoughts? I love to ask musicians this. Last question. For somebody starting out, for somebody coming up in the music scene, I mean, now, if you could meet your 13-year-old self playing those shows,
oh my God.
what is that, like, one piece of wisdom that these people need to know?
Oh my goodness. If I could look, and I've tried to look at some of the younger bands and some of the younger musicians and some of the younger artists, basically, spend 95% of your time writing music that, means something to you. And spend the other 5% of the time, this is initially, finding how to get it out there. Don't worry about the image. Don't worry about, anything other than writing music that you believe in, because if you believe in it, somebody else will too.
That's great. And just as also a closing note, we're going to have an exclusive track by Mike recorded here in the studio, and we're going to have that for download in the show notes. I'm not sure how we're going to do it yet, but just read that up, and you'll be able to get a free track by Mike. Mike, thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
All right.